What is up, Jabroni? JJ back here from Run Pure Bets. Here to talk a little college basketball Saturday, March 11th. I'm just looking. We have the right microphone being used. Tough scene. Tough scene. Let me just make sure that we swap over to that mic. All right. Should hear me a little more clear now. Maybe not. I hope everybody's week's been good. Conference tournaments are here. Was a good, call it, stretch of 7-8 days for me, and then a few minor back steps the last few days. So looking forward to possibly a strong finish this weekend. I do think overall, if you're in a market where you can get down money on props, I personally can't get a lot of money down on props, but I think if you can get a lot of money down on props, I think conference tournaments are a nice way to find some edges, right? Because in these tournament games, you often see, the cream of the crop, or the cream rise to the top, if you will. And usage goes up in these games for certain players, right? All around. So I think overall, you could target, many of those spots for player points specifically, like rebounds, assists. Don't get me wrong, assists specifically. There's edges to be had, and I do have a play I like today in that regard. But like rebounds to me is very volatile, especially at the college level, right? And points specifically, I think it's a fairly predictable. Obviously, like I said, I don't go through the motions as often as I probably should. But in reality, huge edge at the college level with player props, and they do offer them a lot more this time of year. And they'll definitely offer them in the tournament. I do think in the tournament, a little add more variance, right? New teams seeing each other, new styles, new playing styles, and then of course new coaching schemes around that, right? But conference tournaments, these are teams. Some of these teams have already seen each other twice beforehand. So, it does make it a little more predictable in terms of usage. And again, increased usage for the really good players this time of year is more common than not. So, try to use that to your advantage in the flavor of overs. And then in unders, same way. In the other direction, use it to your advantage, right? Certain guys that are, call it mid-tier guys or even top-fledged guys, maybe just aren't seeing the basket well this time of year. And their usage has gone down because of it. Maybe minutes are going down. A lot of the props that get published or pushed from the betting markets are really based on, points per game for the year. And they usually don't deviate too far, higher or lower. But I think from a matchup perspective, extra increased usage, I think could all be used to your advantage. But either way, let's go through some games. So first game up for me that really stuck out, Indiana Penn State. So as I've said on this before, and I know that I do, one live show a week on here and then the one live show on the DFS channel talking these games. So maybe everything's not completely calibrated. But I've said all year that, Indiana is, to me, the one team out of the Big Ten that could really make some deep noise. And again, just to be clear on deep noise, the Final Four or better. I'm not saying that, like, obviously other Big Ten teams can't, of course, but in terms of their style of play, I think that they best match up against other teams, especially at that level. Like, again, I'm not somebody who trusts Purdue. I definitely don't trust Iowa. Illinois has been like blah. So, like, I think, you obviously you could take different teams that have had, different, rises in their own way, Michigan State, Michigan, blah, 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 blah. But to me, the most complete team out of the Big Ten is Indiana. But in this spot, though, I actually really like Penn State catching 3. And it's for a few different reasons, but there is one big reason. So Penn State plus 3.5. I think it's minus 115. Okay. Wait. Yeah, it's minus 115 at TK. So, now I get it. This might not be a super popular play. Indiana's a very trendy team in a lot of ways. And again, they are a team that I am also high on out of the Big Ten, especially compared to the others. It's been a while since you did any videos. Just got on. How's the Fax Man piece? What's up, Gary? Fax is good, or Pops is good. He actually should be doing 1 or 2 videos next week because I'll be in Kentucky for a few days. But either way, I am doing, just so you know, Gary, I know the schedule's a little wonky, but I have been on here every Saturday doing live videos, every Sunday doing live videos on the DFS channel, and then I do, the golf content on the DFS channel, and the NASCAR show on the DFS channel. So I don't think it's been as much as since me not doing videos. I think it's maybe just not on this specific channel. But either way, we move forward. What's up, Leroy? So anyway, back to this game, right? So look, Penn State is a team that I've actually liked quite a bit. I know that, to me, they're a little familiar in a bit ways to Ohio State, but Ohio State It's kind of come back to earth a bit with their 3-point shooting. I always love how like people are so high on Alabama. And it's like when you look at a team like Penn State, yeah, sure, they don't fit the bill defensively that like Alabama does. And their tempo is a lot slower, methodical, if you will. But man, this team shoots a lot of threes and makes a lot of threes. That's the big difference, right? There's a lot of teams that shoot a lot of threes, not necessarily make a lot of threes. What is it, like 43%, something like that, of this team scoring comes from 3-point land, and they shoot it as a team at almost 39%. I look at this matchup in 2 ways. Look, Indiana, if you look at the games they've lost this year, especially in conference play, it's been from really one of 2 reasons. Either their offense did not show up, or they were left vulnerable against the 3 ball against teams that can make them. Okay. Penn State specifically can certainly make threes. And I look at it like this, like, yeah, Jackson Davis is going to get his. Hood Schifino's been actually really good down the stretch for this team as well on the Indiana side. But I do believe they're going to have to play really well if Penn State shoots their season average from 3-point range here. Let's go back a bit, looking at Penn State over the last, we'll call it month and a half or so, actually even further, we'll call it 2.5 months-ish. January 8th, 2 months plus, okay? Really, since about that time, we're talking about a stretch of about 19 games. Only twice out of the last 19 games did this team shoot less than 35% from 3-point range. This team has just snipers upon snipers. And I know the 2 big guys get the big majority of it, right, between, Pickett and Lundy. But let's be honest, like, Funk's another guy, 41% from 3. Cameron Winter, 40% from 3. You look at it, and I know Funk's a transfer, right? Somewhere in the American, not the American, the Colonial, whatever conference Bucknell's in. But either way, I think it's been very noted that this is a team that could certainly cause some noise in the bracket. Now, I do say with teams like this, it is difficult for a team like Penn State, just as it is difficult for a team like Alabama to win the national championship, because you got to have 6 games where that 3 ball is not letting you down. Penn State will definitely have the 3 ball let them down. But with that said, they've been shooting relatively well as a group. They're coming off a game where they didn't shoot all that well against Northwestern, 35% in an overtime game that they grinded out. But look at this team. I mean, you're talking a team that's won 6 of 7, right? 7 of 8, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 of 8 games. They're peaking at the right time in terms of being able to close games out. Indiana's, again, to me, the toughest team in the Big Ten from all angles. But where is Indiana vulnerable? Indiana is vulnerable specifically against the 3 ball. And look, Penn State's going to get their open looks today. These teams met earlier in the year where Penn State just shot on fire from 3-point range. I'm not expecting that by any means. I think as a team, they shot like 56%. Obviously not expecting that. But it does go to show you that Indiana is going to give up open looks for 3. And Penn State is not a team that's shy at all at shooting the 3 ball. I think the big thing for Penn State here is going to be more or less just kind of protecting the offensive glass as best they can. And they're not terrible at it either. Because, yeah, Jackson Davis is going to likely cause them fits. He had a bad game earlier in the year, but just chalked it up as that because the matchup does make sense for Jackson Davis to have a really good showing today. And again, Hood Schifino's just kind of been tremendous in various ways as well. But I can't express this enough. The handicap here comes down to Penn State shoots their season average from 3, about 39%. I think it's going to be very difficult for Indiana's offense to overcome that. You're just going to have to get a peak type game from both Jackson Davis and Hood Schifino if Penn State shoots that well. And let's be honest, if Penn State shoots even better than that, Penn State's likely going to win outright today. So the cap is really around what Penn State does really well is really one of the few blemishes of where Indiana's defense is a little vulnerable. We saw it a few months back, and Penn State's been really riding the proper momentum coming into this game. Kind of compare them to a bit of Ohio State. I liked Ohio State today as well, but definitely not as strong as Penn State. Purdue is not the best matchup for Ohio State, and while Ohio State is another team kind of peaking at the right time, first of all, Ohio State's likely going to need to win this tournament to get in anyway. Penn State likely cashed their check into the bracket when they beat Illinois 2 games ago. So, but either way, Penn State, I'm sure, would like to pull an upset here, and then they're very good, very live to win it all, to win the Big Ten tournament if they win this game. So, to me, either way, good game here, all around expected. I do know for a fact this game is going to be purely based on Penn State's 3 ball, as most games are with Penn State, and the matchup dictates that there'll be open looks today for Penn State, and I think I think they take advantage of it and hopefully splash a few extra. Can't express this enough. Penn State shoots like 34%, 33% from three. Indiana's going to boat race this team. But again, just taking from a numbers perspective, I think this line is given a lot of respect to Indiana, all things considered. I think Penn is a super live dog today, and if they just splash their threes at sub 40%, which is something they've done all season long, I think it's going to be tough for Indiana to overcome over 40 minutes. All right, so next game up. Let's see. Glad you're on the same page there, Robert. Just kind of riding the wave with hot teams, right? All right, so next game up is okay. So I'm going to give a prop for you guys in a later game. So UAB plays Florida Atlantic. Look, I'll be honest. Like these UAB games have been pretty tilting recently. I was enjoying betting a few unders with this team, and that's kind of backstabbed me quite a bit. The North Texas game yesterday was just a complete foul fest. I don't even blame the refs necessarily. You're talking teams that just got completely out of hand fouling. 36 fouls called in total, and was like over 50 free throw attempts. You're never going to cash an under with numbers like that. But I will say, on the UAB side, Jordan Walker's been absolutely phenomenal, right? And I think that a lot of people are going to look to it and say, oh, well, maybe we should just target his player points over and a player prop. And the number is not terrible. I think it's 21.5, which when you talk his usage in this offense, what it's been, it's honestly not as big a number as it looks. And it's not like Florida Atlantic's this crazy good defense that kind of scares you in that regard. But I'll say this much. The assists number for him is 3.5. This is more or less just a scheme thing on my end. Florida Atlantic, if I'm coaching Florida Atlantic, right? So kind of put myself in Dusty May's shoes for a moment. I'm going to be double teaming Jordan Walker as much as possible. The guy is getting hot at the right time. And if you're going to lose this game today, you don't want it to be because of Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker has now scored what? He's averaging in this conference tournament. They've only played 2 games, but 30 in the conference tournament, dropped 41 against Charlotte the game before that. And it's just been, since he's come back from injury, his team has just been, a newfound version of themselves. But what I like here is the assist number, right? So the assist number is 3.5. And I think it makes a lot of sense to push this over. This number should probably be 4.5. And the reason I say that is because when you take into account the matchup, along with the many double teams Walker is likely to see around screens, it's going to set up a lot of open jumpers for the rest of this group. And let's be honest, UAB has plenty of scorers on this team. It's not like he has to be a one-man show on this group. You're talking, Eric Gaines, who the ball's in his hands, almost just as much as Jordan Walker's. You got multiple guys that can shoot the 3 ball at above 35%. I just think it makes a lot of sense for him to go over this number just based on opportunity cost alone. You take a guy that's going to be firing up a lot of shots, sure. But again, if we're talking the easiest way to get easy baskets, Florida Atlantic's likely going to double him on a bunch of things today, a bunch of different plays, and the easy just kick around. And this has been a season number for him anyway, so it's not even like the number is high to begin with. And I think when you compare it with the matchup and how Florida Atlantic's path to victory is just keeping Jordan Walker at bay and let other guys beat them, I think Walker's going to be kicking out a bunch of extra shots today to his teammates and still getting his. I mean, his usage in this offense is just insane, especially recently. But yeah, I mean, he's gotten 6 assists, 2 of his last 3. If this game stays tight throughout, I do also think Walker continues to dish to let his guys get open looks versus him taking contested jumper after jumper. So as the focal point of the defense of Florida Atlantic, I like Jordan Walker to be kicking out extra assists as needed. So yeah, I do like that a lot. That's at DK. So that is 3.5 assists for Jordan Walker. Assists, and that's minus 120. What's up, Chris? What's up, Mark? My dad is likely to do a video next week, I assume. Again, because I'm going to be out for a few days, so I expect him to pop in for a video or 2. And all good otherwise on my end. So I appreciate you guys asking. Last but not least, let's see what game makes the most sense out of this to give you guys. Hold on. Out of this list, so let me just see here. Let's do. So just so you know, the Rump Your Bets guys got 5 bets. I'm giving what's it called? 3 bets to you guys. Obviously, 1 prop and 2 of the bets. Let's do the late night hammer, right? So Arizona UCLA. I really like Arizona in this spot as a pick 'em. I look at it in a few different ways here. I think UCLA. First of all, when these two first met, not first met, but met recently, this was like, what, a week ago? I think it was also on a Saturday night. So I think it's literally a full week ago. I really liked what I saw from Arizona. Now I know that the game ended up getting lost in translation after the first group of minutes per se, but Arizona came out of the gate pretty quick. And I'll be honest, like watching the game, it really felt like Arizona missed a lot of scoring opportunities. And UCLA cashed in on their free throws, which, look, they're a good free throw shooting team, so it's not like crazy in that sense. But like overall, like there wasn't really, like, you look at the final score and you're like, oh wow, UCLA won by 9. That game was a very much so back and forth. This game is going to be on a neutral court. Specifically, hold on. Oh, it's in Vegas. I mean, to me, it's, tomato for what fan bases will show up. But look, I think Arizona's been an underrated team in this conference. I think UCLA gets all the noise. They get all the exposure. Arizona has had a tremendous year. I mean, Tommy Lloyd, with what he's done with this group over the last 2 seasons, has been phenomenal. I mean, last year they looked really good. And look, this team's still trying to pick up pieces from the Sean Miller days. And look, they were a good group during Sean Miller, but needless to say, I think this team matches up just as well with any team in the country. They play really fast. They're really efficient offensively, despite playing really fast. They're underrated defensively. They are a huge team inside. I guess where you could start to nitpick this team is with their lack of deep roster in terms of bench minutes and such. But Tubelis has been tremendous. And again, I thought they played a lot better than that final score indicated when they were in UCLA. Now this game comes back to a neutral court. And look, I just really like Arizona in this spot. I think they can definitely close this out if the game is close enough late with them with a lead. They have some concerns with the free throw line, but they do have enough good free throw shooters if this game is in the pocket in that sense. And again, this is just a pure matchup. And I didn't really like. Part of me wanted to fire or give out UCLA last Saturday. But I did have some concerns over this Arizona team in a full road setting, especially against a team like UCLA. A little more neutral court-esque. Arizona travels. This game should have decent amount of fans from both squads. And look, when we talk about strength of schedule as well, Arizona's definitely had things tougher than UCLA this year. And let's be honest, like the records aren't all that crazy different, right? I mean, with an extra 2 losses, UCLA's won a bunch of games in a row. But I will say this is a nice spot to jump on Arizona, a team that has beaten this team before in a game that crawled, which you would figure if the game crawls, it was like a 110 total between these two, like a 58, 51, something like that. I know when these two met in like January. Arizona proved they can beat this team in a slugfest, slow molasses type match. And Arizona wants to run this game out anyway. So to me, I liked a lot what I saw when these two met last week. Despite Arizona losing, I thought they got a lot of good open looks that they weren't cashing in on. If those land today, I do think they win this game. And I think we're getting a few points in our favor. I truly believe like UCLA is the most complete team in basketball because from a matchup perspective, there's just not a lot of teams that are as complete as them. But as far as teams that match up well against them, I mean, Arizona's as good as any. I mean, Arizona's great on the glass. Arizona gets the free throw line. Arizona makes threes. Arizona's tough inside defensively. Arizona has a lot of good guys around the rim offensively. The ball movement with Arizona is one of the best in the country. Swing, if you will, for an open guy. But yes, overall, matchup wise, I like this money line price. I know last week, I think it was 3.5 or 4.5. But again, I did have concerns over the road setting and how that would close out. A little different story here, like Arizona outright tonight. So that's where I'm at. Do we like Mizzou over Bama? Oof, I'll be honest. I haven't bet a lot of Bama games this year. I know I bet the Bama total last week. The reason I don't bet a lot of Bama games is just because you know what you're getting with Alabama, a team that is just going to hoist 3 after 3 after 3. And if the matchup doesn't make a lot of sense, it does make things difficult. Missouri is absolutely brutal at defending the 3 ball. So that would scare me a bit into wanting to take Missouri because Alabama is going to get a bunch of open looks from 3. But again, this team, we talked on Penn State before. Alabama has a lot of their points come from 3-point range, and they are not a good 3-point shooting team collectively. So, but Missouri will let this team shoot a lot of open threes, and that is a little alarming when you're going to bet against Alabama. When you bet against Alabama, granted, you can hope. Like, I'll be honest, like last week's game, Alabama versus who did they see last week? That game was so tilting. Like, I don't know if you guys watched it, but it was A&M, right? So, like, my God, like Alabama, like people talk to how good Texas A&M's defense was. Like, if you watch that game, especially the first half, Alabama must have missed, I don't know, 12, 13 point blank, wide open 3-pointers in that first half. Second half, they got a little better. That's why the game got a little closer late. But, man, I mean, you're talking team that shot 19% from 3, but in the first half, actually it might have been even worse. Like, I think the first half, they might have been like 2 for 19 or 2 for 20, something like that in the first half. It was wild. And it wasn't even like these were contested threes. So yeah, again, in a spot like this, you can bet on Missouri and just hope Alabama's going to miss open threes like they did against A&M. But man, you want to fade Alabama when you have a team that's really good at guarding the line and it's going to force them to take tough shots because they just don't have the 3-point makers that you're used to seeing in this group. Brandon Miller's phenomenal, but once you get past him, like these guys are all mids shooting the 3 ball. And again, the matchup, I don't love it. So call me right down the middle there because I honestly don't love the Missouri spot. If only PA player pop. Ty, I'm sure at some point that they'll open those up. I mean, FanDuel has a few of them for the big games, but DK's got them posted for every game. Again, I can't get a lot down myself anyway, but obviously for you guys who can, that's where I would obviously Jordan Walker's assist is a good spot. What else we got? So it's funny you mentioned Vanderbilt because I just brought up Texas A&M too. Look, I said this before. I like Buzz Williams a lot. I liked him in his Marquette days 10 years ago. I think he was what Virginia Tech for a bit. Was it Tech or where was he with? Yeah, it was Virginia Tech for a bit, and obviously now he's been with A&M for some time. I will say this is not a typical Buzz Williams team I'm used to. This team does not shoot the 3 ball very well, and usually his teams are really poised with hoisting up 3-pointers. Vanderbilt specifically has had a decent year, all things considered. Pippen's kid is not here any longer, and I'll be honest, like they haven't played that bad. I think Stackhouse has done a decent job with this group. They were a better team. I felt like if Pippen Jr. had more help, they would have been better because he was a phenomenal scorer. But anyway, so with the group they have now, it's a little more well-rounded. I mean, in certain ways, I know William Robbins I don't know if he's still hurt or maybe he's back. Let me see. Is he back? No, I don't see him back. So yeah, this team's kind of been, I don't want to say struggling without him. They've found ways. They've been on some crazy tear in the SEC, but I'll be honest, the SEC's been relatively weak outside of Alabama to me. Like Kentucky's having a down year. Like the SEC hasn't been like what you're used to out of the SEC. As far as the matchup between A&M, look, I don't know. It's not a great matchup for Vanderbilt because A&M's superior on the offensive glass, and Vanderbilt's biggest issue is guarding the offensive glass. You would expect a lot of easy putbacks for A&M today. But look, Vanderbilt has certain advantages or will have certain advantages in their favor, especially if their 3 ball is landing. And A&M, it's like the handicap I said with Alabama. A&M will let teams shoot 3s. Like, it's just reality, right? So when you walk into a team that's making their 3s, A&M is going to be in trouble. A&M was letting Alabama shoot every 3-pointer under the sun last week. And maybe it was a good strategy because Alabama kept missing them. Vanderbilt, similar kind of shooting numbers with the 3 ball, maybe a little better, a little worse than Alabama, but they're around the same. And Vanderbilt's going to hoist up threes. So if Vanderbilt's going to make threes, they're going to win outright today. If Vanderbilt's going to miss threes, they're going to get boat raced. And to me, it's just reality. A&M has a lot more consistent scores, and you would figure that over time would be an issue for Vanderbilt in today's game. But again, if Vanderbilt's going to make threes, A&M is going to be – I'm going to be out drawn dead if Vanderbilt's going to be sticking their threes that A&M is going to let them shoot all game long. So I think what's the current line on this game? Let me just see. I could pull up the current. It was a 4.5, something like that, 5. Let's see what we're looking at for that line. Vanderbilt. Yeah, so it's as high as 6. I call it a small lean in favor of Vanderbilt because 6 lets it be a little forgiving with the 3 ball. But again, it's just not a good matchup for them. I don't know how they performed during the season in these matchups, and not to overreact over that data anyway, but let me just look quick how these games played out for these teams. So 72-66, one game they played earlier in the year. And, Vanderbilt shot 37% from 3 and still lost. A&M just had a really good offensive showing, especially inside, and that's the concern, right? But above all else, the fouling. 24 fouls were called against Vanderbilt. Now, I'm not saying that maybe those all weren't actual real foul calls, but I don't think Vanderbilt usually does not have a big problem fouling. So credit to A&M, who, by the way, is one of the arguably the best team in college basketball getting to the free throw line anyway. But will Vanderbilt foul A&M 24 times again? Doubt it. But if that happens, A&M's going to easily win because A&M's already got enough of an advantage on the offensive glass that even if Vanderbilt shoots well from 3, it's not going to matter. So yeah, I think if you're betting Vanderbilt, you're more or less definitely hoping they're not going to be as handsy as they were in the first matchup, and that Vanderbilt's going to continue to hit their threes about 38%, and then try to control the offensive glass as best they can. But again, A&M's offensive production is a lot more predictable today than Vanderbilt's end. So, but 6 does feel like a number that's a little forgiving if you want to bet Vanderbilt. Other than that, that's it, folks. We talked on 3 games. Obviously, a relatively short slate, all things considered, especially what we're used to on a Saturday. But that's good because that means we are getting closer and closer to the madness. In relation to tomorrow, I'll have a video with Holden at 11:30 or 12. I'll look at what time the games are relative to it. Like, for instance, I was going to do this at 11:30, but then I realized there's 2 games at 11, and then there's no games till 1, so just push it till 12. Might do the same thing, but remember, that will be on the Run Pure Sports channel. And then I'll have the NASCAR show with the boys right after that, again, on the DFS channel. All that said, I hope you all gamble responsibly. Stay safe. And yes, run pure. I will see you guys tomorrow. Good luck with all your bets.